Hi, this is Joy Robertson. As many of you know, I love food. I love finding new restaurants. I love trying new dishes. And most of all, I love talking to the many great restaurateurs and entrepreneurs we have here in the Ozarks and beyond. I love hearing their stories, and that's what this podcast is all about, learning more about them and their journey. So join me as we savor the Ozarks. Hey there, everybody. It's Joy. It's early November, and Veterans Day is upon us. I wanted to share with you an interview I did last Veterans Day with Chaz from Cafe B-29 down in Ozark. What a great restaurant, full of military memorabilia and memories and people who have served us so bravely over the years. If you haven't been, you've just got to go. So enjoy this chat with Chaz. And to all the veterans out there, thank you for your service. At the time of this recording, Veterans Day is approaching, and I'm at one of the most unique restaurants in all of the Ozarks. I'm in Ozark at Cafe B-29, and if you have not been here, you owe it to yourself to make a trip down here. I am here with the people who started it all, Chaz Koeppen and Matt Gann. Thank you. Thank you for your service to the people that gave us service. Chaz, how did this start?
Oh, my goodness. Back in 2016, me and Matt were sitting on the front porch, and I have been in the food and restaurant business for about 30 years, and I told him, I'm like, man, if I don't really push to open a restaurant now, I'm not going to have the energy as I get older. And so we started talking about and dreaming what we would want a restaurant to be like, and we'd listen to old Merle and Haggard, and we got to thinking about our grandfathers. Mine is a World War II veteran, Doyle Brown, and Matt's was Korea, Joe Harrington, and we talked about just their sacrifice to this country and what old school diners used to be like, and that's where the beginning of Cafe B-29 started, was us dreaming of what we would do different to offer a community to where when you walk into the doors of an old diner where people know your name and get to know you, and how to include the community and celebrate the American spirit. And so that was the very beginning ideas of Cafe B-29.
Which one of you came up with the name?
That would have been Chaz. We actually were going to name the restaurant Bombshells, and we got a cease and desist before we ever opened. There was a restaurant in Dallas, Texas that had already claimed that, even though we'd got it trademarked. The process wasn't complete, so we had to scramble and come up with another name besides Bombshells, and we got to thinking again, and the World War II theme kept coming up, and kind of the Greatest Generation and the iconic B-29 bomber. Actually, Chaz had a Harley-Davidson motorcycle that was painted, airbrushed like a B-29 bomber.
Interesting. Okay, so neither of you is a veteran, but you both kind of grew up and respecting, certainly, veterans, as we all do, or at least we absolutely all should. Then comes time to get a location. So there's a lot to consider here. Matt, were you in the food and beverage hospitality industry at all before this started?
I was for 9 months. When I was 15, I got a job at McDonald's, and I swore I would never work in the restaurant industry again. But I really liked to cook, and my grandfather that was in Korea was actually a butcher. He had Harrington Meats in Nixon, Missouri. So we grew up eating really well on Sundays after church, and I spent a lot of time beside Grandpa and learned how to cook, and I kind of always wanted a restaurant of my own.
Did you have your sights set on Ozark?
You know, we really looked at all the small towns. We wanted to be in a smaller town to be part of a community. We looked in Billings, we looked in Clover, we looked in Rogersville, we looked in Springfield. It took us about 6 months before we found the location. Matt grew up in Ozark, and it has a very rich, long history. And I had managed Bumsteads in Nixa for 8 years. So I knew a lot of the local people, and living in so many places growing up in your lifetime, it's a melting pot in this area, and the people are wonderful. So when we found this location and finally decided on it, everyone was like, oh, it's not a good location. Nothing ever really, goes over well in this strip mall. We were the first business to open a restaurant in this end of this particular strip mall, and you know what? From the day it's opened, it stood on its own. So.
Well, you're right here off of 65 at the CCJ exit, and I don't know how you can figure it's not a great location, particularly now. We are recording early in the morning, really before the doors open, and I've never seen it so quiet in here, and it makes me really even more appreciate the museum-like decor that you have going on here. Every square inch of this place is filled with genuine memorabilia from all branches of the military. When you open the doors, I'm sure you had a theme going, obviously, and you had to have some kind of decor. It's grown over the years.
We didn't have a lot on the walls when we first opened besides our personal collection. And people started coming in and going, can I bring a picture of my grandfather? And we're like, absolutely. And I always say that the cafe evolved itself in a very, very spiritual, humble way. And I said, we just better serve amazing food and give excellent service, because what we have on these walls, if these walls could talk, the stories are unbelievable.
Do you still have people show up with a jacket or a photo, and that you're kind of short on wall space? If I'm going to get a picture of my dad or my husband in here, I better hurry.
Yeah, we'll make it happen. Friday I was working, and a gentleman came in with a picture from Antarctica at the South Pole, and there's a bunch of signs there for Wall Drug and different iconic places with the mileage. And this gentleman brought in a picture, and he dated it as 1956, I believe. When he took the picture, he was stationed down there. He'd flown in 3 or 4 times, and he said Boxcar Willie was stationed there, and his job in the Air Force was to refuel planes in Antarctica. So every day there's a new story that comes in.
I can only imagine what it's like to hear the stories that come in and out of these doors. All right, you mentioned the food. How did you come up with your menu? I love some of the names of the items on your menu. Talk about how you said diner, so that kind of sets the tone here. How did you come up with your menu?
We wanted to cook from scratch as much as possible. We didn't want frozen patties. We didn't want frozen French fries. We wanted to do as much fresh as we can. We're not fast food by any means. If you come in here, expect to wait 20 minutes, sometimes 30 for your meal, because we cook it from scratch. We have a prep cook that does 2.5 pages of prep a day. Everything from weighing out and hand patting burgers, cutting. We cut like anywhere from 12 to 16 5-gallon buckets of fresh fries per day. Mm-hmm. We make homemade coleslaw, but we wanted very old school Americana food, like what you would expect in an all-American cafe, from our Phillies to our Monte Cristo, to our catfish. When I think of our catfish our basket, we hand batter our catfish, we make our slaw from scratch, we cut our fries fresh, we make our tartar sauce homemade. I always look at that basket and say everything in that basket was made from scratch. So we do a lot on the back side of that kitchen and what goes into that menu, and really have an excellent crew that are very experienced. We pay our staff well, and they have all been with us for many, many years. We've been very blessed to have a great crew. Well,
speaking of your staff, Mike just came out of the kitchen a minute ago, and You say he's been here several years. I was here Saturday with my husband. We had a lovely waitress named Irene who was so excited when she said, now, do you want some ranch to go with your chicken sandwich? Yes, you do. You do. We make it fresh. And I said, you got any blue cheese? We do that too. She said, let me bring you a little bit of both. So you clearly take pride in that.
Absolutely. Was a little apprehensive of starting a restaurant. In today's world, Chaz is amazing and knows a lot of people who has tons of experience, but the chains had really taken over. Springfield was known for great restaurants for years, and my grandfather supplied meat to all the great restaurants. I remember going to the restaurants as a child, and Grandpa was celebrated like a celebrity because he provided the meat to allow them to be successful. So, the big chains had came in and got really popular, but it kind of ran out a lot of the mom and pop places. So I thought it would be cyclic to start that over again. And so if we provided a place with good service and good food, then we would be successful.
And you have been, and you still are. I'm going to jump up and grab a menu just for fun because I was reading over this, the Charlie Alpha Tango Foxtrot India Sierra Hotel. Those of you who know, that's the catfish. You've got Lieutenant Dan's shrimp basket, Frogmen Ahi tuna steak, Bumstead's burger basket. Okay, that may be a little homage to where you spent time before. That jalapeno popper burger, by the way, you're an award winner for that, correct?
Yep. Yeah, we won the 417 Beer and Burger Wars and won a ticket to the World Food Championship, where we went up against 50 chefs from around the world in the burger competition. We got 21st, and we were like, yeah, we got 21st in the world on our burgers. We were the newbies there, but there were people that got 34th that had won grand champion the year before. So for us, we're looking at 21st going, this is awesome, but had a blast doing it. We really enjoyed the world food competition. Yeah. The people that put it together are just top notch.
Well, I underwent training to be a judge for that, and the training happened here. Let me just real quick read the jalapeno popper burger. Half-pound jalapeno popper burger, melted slice of pepper jack, smoked bacon, and a big scoop of your homemade jalapeno popper dip on a butter-grilled bun. My husband had that, and it's a hefty little burger. It's not a little burger. He said, he had the knife and fork going. It was almost like bring me a spoon so I can get all of this dip up off the bottom.
That's what the fries are for.
Yes, sir. Exactly.
Messy food's the best. I have to get a shout out to my mom. She came up with the recipe for the popper dip, and we always give Mom a hard time for not being a cook, but she has came up with the #1 seller at Cafe B-29. So thanks, Mom.
Yeah, thanks, Mom. We owe you a debt of gratitude for sure. I love this. The snafu chicken strips. We all know what that means. Situation normal. It's just chicken strips, folks. That's what it says in the menu. You got a K-ration bologna sandwich, the B-29 Cruise buffalo chicken sandwich, the ultimate Hawaiian, the Normandy French dip. Really, really fun, creative menu. What is your favorite thing on the menu? Matt, you start.
The catfish is excellent. I eat that about once a week. We also have a brat burger, which is it's pork, like a bratwurst, infused with bacon and pepper jack cheese. And we have that packaged as a burger, and so that comes out with sautéed onions, a little secret sauce, and it's wonderful. You won't get it anywhere else. A little salty, but it's great. I think our Reuben's the best around. We have excellent food.
Salty's not a bad thing. I salt my salt. I'm that person. What's your favorite?
I love the Monte Cristo that Micah Morgan came up with. It's just excellent. Me and my kitchen manager, Mike, came up with the ultimate Hawaiian chicken sandwich, which absolutely excellent. I have a fried bologna sandwich on the menu that was inspired by my grandfather, Doyle Brown, who a World War II veteran. But, we wanted old school food on there. And people will kind of look at things like the Sloppy Joe and giggle, and they're like, "You're seriously putting that on the menu?" And it's like, yeah, and
People love it.
People love it. I mean, it's food that you used to get at Grandma and Grandpa's house, and what makes us a little bit different.
Where do you guys like to eat when you're not here? And do you cook at home?
Absolutely. I try to cook at home as much as possible. I got to keep her interested somehow. Make gumbo. I've been making gumbo for a special on Fridays. I'm not from Louisiana, but I think I've got a pretty mean gumbo going. But yeah, at home we try to experiment and try different things. As far as restaurants go, we have a couple of favorites. Florentina's in Branson has an excellent chicken Alfredo. I'm not a big Alfredo person, but wow, it's a smooth, creamy sauce. We really like that restaurant.
Where else you like to go?
I really love Bear Creek Winery. They have excellent pizza. They have, the atmosphere, what Mandy and her crew has done, being locally owned near where we have a small farm in Chestnut Ridge. If you want to see the leaves and have excellent food, it's just outstanding. We are definitely foodies. We love everything from Metro Grill to Nicola's. There's so many different excellent restaurants in this area. Salvador's here in Ozark. We and as restaurant owners, we all talk and have such great respect for each other because of how hard it is to be in this industry right now, and to keep going and to make it and be creative with food costs and what's available. You got to respect everyone who's in this business.
Well, and we really respect you for what you do here. And I love hearing a shout out to other restaurateurs in the area, because everybody seems to get along really well, and we're all in this together. Speaking of, you all are very generous. You give veterans a discount every single day. 10% discount, is that right?
Yes, absolutely. We're big supporters of Honor Flight of the Ozark. We always try to donate to them, and we have our Veterans Day breakfast coming up on November 11th. We do a breakfast buffet from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. for 3 hours, and we do a beautiful buffet layout, and we have our local food company, Springfield Grocer, donates all the food to it. We come in and get the orange juice and the apple juice and the fresh fruit and the donuts, and we serve about 300 veterans and their guests completely for free every Veterans Day. We call it our Veterans Day Mess Hall Breakfast, and it is so much fun. Our entire crew volunteers that day. Access Hospice comes in, and those folks volunteer every year with us, and so it's just a day. We celebrate Veterans Day every single day, but the actual Veterans Day, that day is especially special to us, and we enjoy serving breakfast on that day. Unbelievable. It's one of our favorite days of the year.
I'll bet there is a line out the door forever to get in here. Just some good food and good company. And I think what's fun about this place is when you walk in, you see people sitting together and visiting with each other. But you mentioned hospice, and particularly World War II veterans, and so many of the other ones, Korea, what have you. None of us make it out alive, right? But I know it can be hard to get attached to some of the folks that come here, and then one day they don't come back. What is that like for you?
It happens a lot, or we have veterans that start getting dementia that have to go into a home, and we are always, can we go take them food? What can we do for the family? Or when the family is able to take them out of assisted living and bring them in, we treat them like they are movie stars the moment they hit the door. When we see, some of us, but we have lost a lot of our World War II vets. We still have, about 3 or 4 that still come in. So every time a World War II vet comes in, we get the microphone, and I always beg their permission first. I'm like, may I please introduce you to the room? And I'll turn down our old time music, and I will introduce the veteran to the room. And they almost always get a standing ovation from our community. And it just brings tears to your eyes. But losing them is the hardest thing that we can deal with. But the memories on this wall, whether they're living or in the past, it keeps them alive. It keeps them. I mean, when people like Sam Appleby's on the wall, or John Brown, people that lived in this community that people adored, they're talked about. People come and sit down, and I know him, or hey, that was my unit. You put me in contact with who put that photo on the wall? And we always have on the back of our photos the names and numbers of who donated it. And so it's been fun when we can reunite veterans with people that they knew, and just threw a photo on the wall.
Irene took me back in the ladies' room, and she said, I want to show you a photo back here. And she said, the hottie on the wall, he still comes in here.
and that was kind of one of the things we touched on, the what started this. I remember while we were talking about restaurants on the front porch, I think Mom and Grandma came by and had like a shoebox full of pictures. And, it struck me as everybody has that shoebox full of pictures. And it's kind of like a lightning bolt. It's like, that's not good enough for Grandpa. Let's put him on the wall and talk about it. And everybody has that shoebox. So we had like 4 pictures when we started, and then everybody kind of said, "Hey, yeah, I'd like to put my relative up on the wall." And I thought, well, that'd be great, and people really got behind it. So I think that was kind of one of the origin stories too. Is just let's get them out of the shoebox in the closet and celebrate their life. Everybody has that favorite uncle or aunt that really served us.
And I mentioned the photo in the bathroom. Did you say Roy?
Yeah, Roy.
Roy the pinup boy.
Oh yeah, and we have a personality. When you think back on World War II, there was some risque nose art and stuff on the planes. So the women's bathroom has the hot soldiers, and the women's bathroom, or in the men's bathroom, has more the pinups. We just we try to have a little bit of personality in a world that can be so uptight sometimes. So we never mean to offend anybody. We're having fun, and we're just celebrating, the men and women that serve this great country.
Well, as it should be. And back in the day, you reflect how it was back in the day. And it's just great fun. And that's another thing. I don't usually hang out in a bathroom that long, but I found myself reading and taking photos of photos, because there's just fun stuff to see in every little nook and cranny of this restaurant. And it's not only veterans who come in here. I would imagine you have people who come in here with young folks, and those folks get a heck of a history lesson.
Oh, yes. It's always fun with the kids. Chaz is great with that. She'll go and put a hat on them, or some kind of a cap, or bring I don't want to say a grenade, but some kind of a memorabilia. Hey, look at this. And the kids aren't on their phones as much here, because I think there's a lot of things that interest them. We've got model airplanes hanging on the walls, and that used to be really popular, and you don't see many models anymore. So for the kids, it's fascinating to see this old history, and it's not sugar coated. This is just as real as it gets.
Is there any one instance or one piece of memorabilia that someone brought in that just kind of stunned you? I mean, was there anything that sort of, brought you to a standstill, a conversation? I mean, I'm sure there are many, but is there any one thing that stands out? You're both looking around. I'm looking around. I want to get a ladder and climb up there and read some of this stuff. And I'm not asking you to pick a favorite, but is there anything that just kind of made you go, holy cow, that rocked my world?
Well, I'm going to talk about a book. I had a local veteran named John Brown asked me if I had ever read read the book with the old breed. And I said, no. He goes, it's the truest account of what it was like for the Marines in the Pacific. And the next morning, he was sitting outside the cafe before it opened, and he brought me his paperback of the book, and he had pages folded down of every battle he was in the Pacific. John Brown went into World War II at 15 years old in the Marines. He had lied about his age and served in the Pacific. So as I would read the book, John would come in and sit at the dining bar and say, "Where are you at in the book? Have you reached this battle yet? Have you reached, Peleliu or Sugarloaf Hill?" And that was something that changed me forever. It was reading that book and having someone that was there talk about every battle as I got to it. And then at the end, he said, he goes, I finally got to come home and I got engaged. And Eisenhower called up the Marines to go to Korea. And he was only 23 when Korea started, because he was 15 when he went into the Pacific. And, Eisenhower needed some good boys to, I'm literally writing stuff down that he's telling me, because I'm looking at him going, you're a living piece of history. Yeah. We lost John Brown to COVID, and but I tell more people about that book and how much that book meant to me. But, the World War II water mine was given to us by a lady named Nicola, who's one of the ROTC teachers at Ozark. So when you have a real World War II water mine hanging from the ceiling, and then, but everything in here is remarkable and history. So it's very hard to pick one item, but it's the book always has meant the most to me.
And you still have the book, I'm sure.
Yes, ma'am.
You opened in 2017, and you're about to tell me a story of something that happened on the very first day. You were exhausted, but what happened?
The very first day, back then we were doing breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We'd been here since 4 a.m., and around 4, 5 in the afternoon, we get a phone call that the crew of Fifi was down at the Branson airport and wanted to come in for dinner that night.
Fifi.
Fifi.
Two B-29s planes that they've rebuilt and are still flying. 2 planes.
One of 2 B-29s. So the crew's down there, and what?
And they're down there giving rides and doing air shows at the Branson airport. And so they asked if they can come in that evening. So our first day open, we had the crew of Fifi, a flying B-29 from World War II, and her crew walk in and all their flight gear and the whole bit, and eat with us the very first day we were open. And they're like, what are you guys doing tomorrow? And the next day was Friday. It would have been our second day open. And the crew goes, would you want to go on a ride on Fifi on a B-29 tomorrow morning? So our second day open, we closed and drove to Branson Airport and got to ride with the crew of Fifi on a B-29, our second day open.
Doing figure eights over a beautiful Table Rock Lake about 300 feet off the deck. It wasn't pressurized, so you could put your arm out and fly around on this piston-driven plane from World War II. When they fired up the engines, like drag racing cars, the pistons, it's not like a jet that just, it's the boo-boo, it just rumbles and they rev it up and you could feel the thrust. They let off the brakes. It was just like, it was an amazing feeling.
So that's when you think I'm doing something right. I got some attention from some people, and you mentioned they were in here Saturday, and I was in here Saturday.
It was actually the crew of Doc that was in here Saturday, and we've had both the commemorative Air Force that takes Fifi around the United States, and the crew of Doc that comes in from Wichita, Kansas. We've had both crews come in at different times and over the years, and so Doc's crew was in on Saturday, and what an honor that was to see them.
Unbelievable. All right. There's a Veterans Fund here that, I'll be honest, I did not know it was here. And how does that work?
We'll have customers come in. Of course, if there's a World War II vet, they never pay for their meal. Me and Matt always pay for it. But we have what's called a Veterans Fund where customers will go, hey, I want to buy a veteran's meal. So the waitress will get them a gift card and we'll put it in our drawer that says Veterans Fund. So we'll have a veteran come in and sit at the bar who's never been here, a little bit shy, and we buy their meal with money that customers have donated for Veterans Meal. And these veterans will just light up and open up, and before we know it, we know their name, we know what branches they served in, and their life story, and become incredible friends. So the Veterans Fund, on top of the 10% discount we give all veterans that have served and active military, but it's pretty incredible that the community wants to do that and help buy these meals for these veterans. We're very touched, and the veterans are always the smile on their face. So to all customers that ever do that, thank you. We're so honored to see the response from a veteran of something you've done very kind for them.
Indeed, and you say a lot of times they come in here alone. Mm-hmm. And that can be a little scary thing to do for any of us sometimes if we go into a place by ourselves that we've not been and you don't really know what to expect. I bet they come back.
They always come back. And that's why we wanted the dining bar, the old-fashioned dining bar. So if someone comes in by themselves, they're not sitting at a table by themselves. They're sitting at the dining bar with people on both sides of them. The best conversations have happened at that dining bar between our veterans and us, or the veterans sitting next to another veteran.
Okay, Chaz Koeppen, Matt Gann, thank you so much for all you do at Cafe B-29, and happy Veterans Day to you, and thank you both for all that you do to help celebrate veterans each and every day, as we all should. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Joy, for having us on.
Be sure to go to AroundTheOzarks.com to sign up for our daily newsletter, where you can get every episode of Savor the Ozarks, plus all our other podcasts, events, and contests straight to your inbox. And what are your favorite dishes in the 417? Do you have any restaurants you'd like me to visit? Email me at joy@AroundTheOzarks.com.